I remember my grandma telling me as a kid, you need to have a job and then you need to have a trade. I just began to think really young, the job is security, but the trade is your passion, or it's your craft. It's what you've gotten real good at. I was taught to do more than one thing. I mean, it was just kind of instilled in us that maybe it's the don't put all your eggs in one basket mentality, but maybe I took that way too far. I didn't enjoy school and I didn't do well at school. I kind of liked the idea of shaping my own life and my own way of doing things. So I didn't set out to be in so many things. If there was an opportunity, I just took it. Grew up in Mustang, Oklahoma. My dad was a music and youth director in a Baptist church. That was his occupation, but he was also a barber, and he bought and sold cars and sold some jewelry, which turned into his career. I have a twin brother. My mom didn't work until we went to kindergarten. My dad, he valued hard work, and it's just what he did. So eventually I left there and went to Connor State College. I didn't really plan to go to college, but my wife, I had met her and she was going to college there, so it encouraged me to give college a try. It wasn't for me, but that was the motivation for that. I always liked cowboy things as a kid. My grandpa had cattle in eastern Oklahoma. I was enthralled by it, and I just had to get it and find it when I could. I was in the FFA in high school. It's probably the most enjoyable thing I did in school. It gave me an outlet to be around those type things. I didn't play sports, and I really didn't fully plug into the FFA. I just enjoyed it. I enjoyed a place where I could learn to weld. I even did some of the parliamentary procedure type stuff. I showed some animals. I wasn't making good grades in other classes. At 48, I can tell you how I got here, but in the moment, I just felt drawn to it. But I never saw it as something I might be able to do. I felt like it kind of had to be generational, and I didn't necessarily pursue it. I ended up in construction because I needed a place to live myself. My latter years of high school and just out of high school, I worked for a heat and air company. I really enjoyed the new construction part of it, and it just put me around carpenters. And when my wife needed to go to Stillwater for vet school, and actually before we were even engaged, against all the advice of our parents, she and I bought a little house. We would drive up on the weekends and work on the house and drive back. And so I just had to learn to do a lot of things with that and figure out what tools I needed, and relied heavily on people I knew to ask questions and guide me along. In doing that house, I called a contractor and asked him to give me a price on some things that I just couldn't get done in the time I needed. And probably his response is why I ended up in construction, but he said, "You're already doing better work than the people I can send over here. You know, I've got some lots and I'd like to build some houses." And I just said yes. I hadn't ever built a house, but he didn't ask that. He asked if I could, and I thought I could, and so I did. There's a lot of satisfaction in the day-to-day of building a house. It's definitely the type of job that at the end of the day, you can look at something and know that you did it. And I think that's good for the soul. I think that we all search for something that gives us that feeling. The majority of the houses I built were design build houses, so I didn't just take a plan. I was part of creating the plan, so that just feels good. If when you're done, you can see something that maybe meets a primal need, I don't know. When my wife was in college, her grandmother passed away. She was the only grandchild. We had a lot of things we needed to liquidate. I don't know if she had the idea or I did, but we rented a booth at an antique mall in Stillwater. Well, then that led us to buying things to resell. But then later, she had a space in an antique store in Oklahoma City. I helped her, but again, it wasn't my main thing. The owner of that store, just on a whim, said he was thinking about selling it, and I called my dad and said, "Hey, you ever thought about moving back to Oklahoma City and maybe an opportunity to buy an antique store? It might be kind of cool." I didn't set out to do it, but I didn't miss the opportunity, or I saw value in it and was intrigued by it. And 18 years later, I still have an antique store. The name of the antique store is Antique Avenue. All my stuff has to do with cowboys and Indians. It's just, I can't fully say what the limits of that are, but I've done it for so long that if I don't like it, even if it's something I could resell, I only have things I don't mind getting stuck with. I like older things or things from the past for a number of reasons. I like something that has stood the test of time. I like something that you kind of know what you're getting. I've never owned a new car and have no intention to. Even though I've built houses, I've always, for where I live, has been a remodel or I've added on to a house. I've liked to take something and make something out of it. I think I'm going backwards. Everything I buy is older instead of newer. So even if it's just a painting on a wall, if it's made at 80 years, it meant something to somebody. I got the opportunity to lease some pasture and some chance meetings with some people. I began to realize I might at least dabble in the cattle business. When I had kids, I really wanted to provide that for them. And so it kind of set me on a journey of figuring out how to do that. So I have some places I lease and then some places I own that I run cattle on. I like crossbred cattle. I like hybrid vigor. The cows I have now and the bulls I have on them will all be a Brahma cross type cattle. My operation is a cow-calf operation. I'm keeping my heifers often for replacements. I'm using my steers for the restaurant or other heifers. So what I'm doing isn't different than what a lot of people are doing. I just want to learn from the people who seem to be doing it right and carve my own way out in that time-honored tradition of animal husbandry and raising cattle, you know. I remember as a kid being in a restaurant that was had a lot of ambiance. It was a neat place to be. Who I believe to be the owner came by, asked us how our meal was. I could tell he was vested in the restaurant, or there was pride in it for him. If I think back, it kind of set me on the idea that it would be cool to have a restaurant. The restaurant's called Sun Cattle Company. That's kind of the name it's taken on. The signage actually says Sun Cattle Company onion fried hamburgers, and keeping it traditional or true to that, what an onion burger is and what an onion burger establishment, how it operates. We would just stay true to that, and the thing we would do different would be serve it on exceptional beef that is Oklahoma beef that we raise, we produce. What we eat and the way we get food gets commercialized, or there becomes catchphrases, or there's things that due to packaging we think we're getting but we're not. We don't overstate that we produce the beef. I would say there's some people that don't even know. We're not trying to be at odds with people who do it different. We're just trying to offer something different. I offer some retail beef in there, so I have people that come and take beef home and cook it for their family. Getting to see that amount of beef that I produced enjoyed and consumed and just used in that way, I have a lot of pride in that. We just want to be authentically who we are. The pictures on the wall in the restaurant are my cattle. The pictures of kids are my kids. There's steers hanging on the wall. There's steers that we processed and used in the restaurant. So authenticity is important. I want everyone to feel comfortable in the space. And when I look around at a Monday at lunch, I feel like I have a lot of different people, blue-collar people, white-collar people who do all kinds of different jobs, people from all different walks of life. And I won't say I set out to do that, more so than I just thought it was understood that should be the goal. I think I was drawn to Western culture at a young age, and I have been able to structure my life to be a cowboy. I never thought I would be I hate to even use the term real cowboy, because if you're being all the cowboy you can be, you're a cowboy. If you end up being a full-on ranch cowboy, that's great too. But there's plenty of in between there, and there's plenty of opportunity. And I'm proof of that. I've worn a cowboy hat and presented as a cowboy long before I could claim I was a cowboy. Realizing you're not the only person on earth, and that there's a lot of us, and that it's best that we go through this in a cohesive way. And I think Western culture is good about that. My name's Matt Parsons, and this is my West.